Welcome back to Bill's Cichlid Room. Today I thought to do a short video on what I'm actually feeding the fish and some important points, so it's almost like a beginner's guide to fish nutrition. Fish nutrition and what foods do I feed my fish? I always think it's important to feed your fish a balanced diet. So you try to match the food with the natural diet of the fish, so whether or not the fish is a harmivore or a piscivore, and try and match that so that you're actually giving the fish the food that it actually needs. As you can see, there's lots and lots of prepared food, all different ones that I try to give the fish, including some frozen foods and occasionally live foods, but that's a whole different video by itself. What I've got here is a complete mix of all the different foods that I feed. So we've got the Cichlid extra large sticks, we've got Cichlid veggie pellets, catfish pellets, we've got the mini coloured pellets and mini algae pellets. There's some pellets for plecos, there's normal flake food. This is a new one that I've got from Predator Aquatics, a tropical fish pellet, and a variety of frozen foods. So this is just a collection here. So we've got the black mosquito larvae, we've got the brine shrimp, and we've got the cyclops that are used for growing on the fish. The other thing that we've got here, which is interesting, is it's a homemade frozen fish food for a complete diet. I'll go into actually how we make this a bit later on in the video. We all feed our fish prepared foods, but how many of us actually bother to look at the label to see what the ingredients are, and more importantly actually understand what the ingredients mean? There's 5 main types of the ingredients that we should be paying attention to. The first one is protein. Now the protein on most prepared foods is between 35 and 50%. The protein encourages the growth and the development of the fish. The next important one is the vitamins. So the vitamins normally in foods, it will be things like yeast. This is actually for the health of the fish. The next one is carbohydrates. So that's normally included as flour or cereals. So this gives the fish energy. The next one is the fats. So this is for the health of the fish. The lower the fat, the better. So normally it's about up to 5%. And the last important item is the ash. This is the mineral content. So this will be things like calcium, copper, iron, zinc. This again is for the health of the fish. It's for the immune system, and it's also for the reproductive. There's a great video on YouTube by Chris Biggs where he's interviewed Dan from Cichlids of the Americas. It goes into really great detail on Dan's view on fish nutrition. It's about an half an hour video, so it is really in depth, but a really good video. If we think about the fish in their natural habitats, the things that they normally eat is things like crustaceans, fruit, nuts, vegetable matter and other fish. This is what we're trying to produce in the prepared foods that we feed to our aquarium fish. A lot of people think that the protein is the most important element. Yes, it is one of the most important and does make up the highest percentage. But when you see prepared foods and the 40-50% is protein, it's actually too much. A fish can actually only really needs between 25 and 30% protein. The rest of it just goes to waste. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I do like to give the fish a varied diet. So all the different foods that I've got on show here, they don't get it all every day. So I'll mix and match. The frozen food, they normally get every 2 or 3 days. With the homemade shrimp mix, like probably twice a week. The recipe for the shrimp mix I actually got from a book called Enjoying Cichlids that was edited by Ed Conans. So the book came out about 15 years ago. It's a good recipe because you can actually mix the ingredients depending on what the fish's needs are. So if you've got herbivore fish, you can actually add more peas, and if you've got piscivore fish, you actually add more shrimp. It's a cost-effective way of doing frozen foods. It works out about 11 or 12 pounds to make 1.5 kilos, which when you think the frozen food in the shops for a blister pack, it's about £2 for a blister pack, and that's only 100 grams. So if you were buying 1.5 kilos, you're probably looking at £30. So it's less than half price. The main ingredients for the shrimp mix is green peas, whole shrimps and spirulina powder. You also need a binder, and in this case it's gelatin, which is a purified protein from warm-blooded animals. There's no fat in gelatin, and the amount of gelatin compared to the other ingredients in the mix is really low. A binder is necessary, otherwise the fine particles in the mixture would pollute the water too much. You can actually swap out the shrimp for white fish such as cod or egg white as a binder. The following ingredients are what you use in the shrimp mix: 500 grams of whole shrimp, the cheapest are also the preferred ones, it says in the book. 500 grams of green peas frozen, 5 millilitres of spirulina powder, which you can get from most health food shops, 50 grams of gelatin powder, and you need some drops of multivitamins, which you can also get in pet shops, normally for birds. Or you can actually use some pelleted food, probably about 75 grams, particularly if you're going to feed the mix to juveniles. Thaw out the shrimps and the peas and put in a mincer or blender and grind them to a fine paste. Then you add the spirulina powder, the pellets if you're using them, and the multivitamins are mixed in. The gelatin is dissolved according to the instructions on the packet. It must be easy flowing, a sticky mass without any lumps. Lumps of gelatin can be dangerous for the juveniles. The gelatin is blended with the shrimp mix. The best way to do this is to mix the food scoop by scoop with the hot gelatin, preventing it from cooling too quickly. The pan of gelatin is still on a low heat. When ready, the mixture is poured into a flat tray or into plastic boxes. As you can see here, we actually used 3 different flat trays because we made that much of it. You place it in the refrigerator for some hours. The hardened mix is then cut into pieces of a convenient size and frozen in plastic bags. After the mix has been placed in the freezer, it cannot be cut easily. Because of the high nutritional value of the shrimp mix, and also because it pollutes the water more than commercially dry foods, you should not feed it more than once a day. As I said before, I feed it to my fish probably every 2 or 3 days. The recipe mentioned above is just a standard shrimp mix, and the proportions between shrimp and peas depends on the feeding regime of the fishes. If you have piscivore fishes, you should use less peas and spirulina and more shrimp or mussel or whichever meaty, fishy food you're using. If you're feeding it to mainly herbivore fishes, you should use more peas and less shrimp with no white fish. You should never use more spirulina than is mentioned. If you do, the fishes could develop black pigment spots. Such pigment blotches disappear if you stop feeding the spirulina. Don't thaw out the shrimp mix before use, but feed it to the fish in modest portions. Frozen food does not harm the fish, and if served frozen, it does not pollute the water as much as it would when thawed. I hope you find this video interesting and it gives you a basic understanding of the fish nutrition needs. Do have a go with doing the shrimp mix. It is a really good food for all your fishes, and it can save you a lot of money as well. I'll close the video off with some clips of me actually feeding the shrimp mix to the fish room. And I'll see you all again next time. If you haven't already, please subscribe and press the bell notification. See you all soon.